Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll continue our reading from Vaisnava Ke. What kind of devotee are you? We'll be continuing from verse number 10 today. Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tabham Vande Shri Gurundin Tarinam Paramananda Madhvam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Se Duti Katha Bhula na sarvatha, uchay sware kar hari nam rava, phalgu ar yukta baddha ar mukta, kabhu na bhaviha chakara saba. Translation goes like this: My dear mind, you should never under any circumstances allow yourself to forget the two instructions of Sanatana Goswami. Constantly engage yourself in loudly chanting the glories of the holy names of the Lord Krishna. Never consider dry renunciation and yukta vairagya, appropriate renunciation, to be equal. Do not confuse actions appropriate for a conditioned soul with the activities of an eternally liberated soul. Never think that everything is one without difference. Purport: After exposing the mind's foul play in desiring to perform solitary practice of Krishna consciousness, now further instructions are being given on performing practical authorized devotional service. Note how His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, told his mind always to engage in loudly performing Sankirtan, glorification of the holy names of the Lord. Solitary practice is for those advanced in Krishna consciousness and not for the neophytes. The neophyte devotee or Kanishtadhikari devotees want to retire untimely from preaching activities and hallucinate that they are on a more elevated platform of devotional service, as explained in these Chaitanya Charitamrita purports. Everyone is eligible to become Krishna's devotee. One simply has to be trained according to the approved process. It is the work of Krishna's confidential devotees to turn everyone into a Krishna Bhakta. If the confidential devotees do not take up the task of elevating everyone to Krishna consciousness, then who will do it? Those who claim to be devotees but do not engage in Krishna's service to elevate all living creatures to Krishna consciousness are to be considered Kanishtadhikaris, people in the lowest stage of devotional service. When one rises to the second platform of devotional service, his business is to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. Those who are active in the Krishna consciousness movement should not remain in the neophyte stage but should rise to the platform of preachers, the second platform of devotional service. Devotional service is so enchanting that even the first-class devotees, that's the Uttamadhikaris, also come down to the second platform to preach and render service to the Lord for the benefit of the whole world. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya-lila, chapter 24, verse 205 is its purport. In this 10th verse, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's instructions to the mind is to be constantly engaged in loud Harinam Sankirtan or congregationally chanting the glories of the holy name of Krishna. There are two kinds of authorized Sankirtan. First, there is the Sankirtan performed by many devotees together playing on mridanga, drums and kartal cymbals while chanting loudly the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. This chanting is also accompanied by dancing. That form of vocal audible Sankirtan can be heard throughout the surrounding neighborhoods, and with amplification, it can be heard for a mile or more. Another form of Sankirtan known as the Brihat Mridang or Greater Drum Sankirtan is the distribution of transcendental literatures glorifying Lord Krishna and his holy names. When literatures authorized in the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are distributed amongst the public, they glorify the holy name for an unlimited distance. Books may go thousands of miles to rescue fallen souls from the illusion of materialistic life, even in remote places such as military camps, prisons, frontier outposts and distant countries. The books of the divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, have reached the hands of open-minded seekers of truth and dramatically improved their lives. The word Uchchai Shware, which literally means loudly sung, is given in the Bengali verse. What is the real significance of this reference to loudly singing? The glories of the Lord. When one sings loudly, many living entities can hear the vibration. Conversely, when one sings softly, only a few are able to hear. Therefore, loudly singing refers to broadcasting the glories of the Lord's holy names in such a way that many are able to receive the message. In this context, the distribution of transcendental literature can be understood as a means of performing a loud sankirtan. For many persons are thus able to receive the transcendental message by reading the books on Krishna consciousness. For example, by reading these transcendental literatures, many have been able to understand the spiritual purpose of life, have started to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and have experienced a change in heart when the awakening of dormant devotional qualities takes place. Therefore, both the expansive distribution of transcendental literature as well as the loud congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord are to be considered as loud sankirtan and are to be performed by all devotees of Lord Chaitanya. The mind has been advised never to forget the two instructions given by Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami. What are these two instructions? Referring to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we find that the following two verses comprise these two principal instructions to Sanatana Goswami. Vrindavane Krishna Seva Vaishnava Achar Bhakti Smriti Shastra Kari Kariha Prachar. Established with devotional service to Lord Krishna and Radharani in Vrindavan, you should also compile Bhakti scripture and preach the Bhakti cult from Vrindavan. Yukta Vairagya Sthiti Sab Shikhaila Shushk Vairagya Jnana Saba Nishedhila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then told Sanatana Goswami about proper renunciation according to a particular situation, and the Lord forbade dry renunciation and speculative knowledge in all respects. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mathilila, chapter 23, verses 104 and 105. Basically, the two instructions are to preach pure devotional service to Lord Krishna and to perform Yukta Vairagya or proper renunciation according to time, place, and circumstance, while avoiding dry renunciation and speculative knowledge. ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, was created by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to fulfill these two instructions. It is the responsibility of all sincere practitioners of Krishna consciousness to follow the methods given by Lord Chaitanya to the six Goswamis. This mandate has been explained by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada as follows. This Krishna consciousness movement continues the tradition of the six Goswamis, especially Srila Sanatana Goswami and Rup Goswami. Serious students of this Krishna consciousness movement must understand their great responsibility to preach the cult of Krishna, cult of Vrindavan, devotional service to the Lord all over the world. We now have a nice temple in Vrindavan, and serious students should take advantage of it. I'm very hopeful that some of our students can take up this responsibility and render the best service to humanity by educating people in Krishna consciousness. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya chapter 23, verse 104. So this was the purport. The importance of engaging, of the earlier verse, the importance of engaging in preaching activities is placed upon above all other activities in Krishna consciousness. One must be pure, though, in order to be empowered to preach transcendental knowledge. Therefore, one must be renounced from gross materialistic activities as well. Renunciation is often thought to be the abnegation of the senses or some type of bodily suffering one must endure. In truth, in pure devotional service, real renunciation is giving up one's enjoyable attitude, in which one sees everything in terms of one's own physical, mental, or intellectual satisfaction. A pure devotee acts simply for the satisfaction of Lord Krishna. For the satisfaction of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the devotee is prepared to do anything, even to accept birth again in the material world if there is devotional service for the Lord desires of the devotee in this miserable place. Indeed, one type of austerity is the austerity of cooperating together with other devotees for performing a service which is dear to the Lord. In this verse, the devotee has been instructed to engage in widespread sankirtan for both types of sankirtan, either the congregational chanting or the distribution of transcendental literatures. Cooperation or teamwork is required. Book Sankirtan requires that the books be written, edited, published, shipped, and distributed. To achieve the end, many people must collaborate, working as a team. Similarly, chanting Sankirtan with mridanga drums and kartals requires the cooperation of all participants. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially appreciated his devotees cooperating for the purpose of spreading the glories of his holy name. Devotees have been instructed in this verse by the word Bhula na sarvatha, never to forget these two instructions. Of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to act independently and make a show of chanting Hare Krishna, or to practice devotional service with the end of achieving personal salvation, or even for satisfying one's personal desires for material fame, possession, distinction, or adoration, have all been condemned here as the actions of a conditioned living entity. Pure devotional service is already on the liberated platform because it has nothing to do with the material activities. In fact, it is unconditional and favorable to the Lord's desire, since it is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire that his devotees preach cooperatively the glories of the holy names of Krishna. Pure devotees unhesitatingly perform this activity at all times, under all circumstances. The thought that an individual could in his own way spread Krishna consciousness outside the Sankirtan movement authorized by the previous acharyas is inconceivable for a pure devotee of the Lord. There is no alternative for the one who wants to achieve perfection in Krishna consciousness in this lifetime other than to remain within the shelter of Krishna consciousness movement and cooperatively work together with like-minded devotees for the satisfaction of Guru and Gauranga. The dangers of leaving the association of Vaishnavas are more than may meet the eye. Another fatal danger waiting to devour the unsuspecting devotee is namely Mayavad. The impersonal conception, the Mayavad philosophy, or the impersonal states that everything is one, thereby denying differentiation between the God and the living entity. From here one may fall further down into the misconception that one is equal with the Lord himself, which makes one an offender and leads one to fall away from the path of devotional service. It may seem impossible for someone practicing devotional activities to be convinced by the impersonal Mayavad conception, but it is quite common. It is possible for a devotee to fall into Mayavad contamination by committing offenses to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his pure devotees. Therefore, one must always keep the mind alert against any tinge of the characteristics of dry renunciation, mental speculation, or offensive mentality towards the dedicated servitors of the Lord, lest one fall down from the devotional path into the horrible abyss of impersonalism. A devotee may be Brahman by qualification and be very pure and strict in his regulative activities, but actually nurture Mayavad or impersonalist thought patterns and have an offensive mentality towards the Supreme Lord Krishna and his devotees. This particular deviation is explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as follows. The absolute truth is realized in three phases: impersonal Brahman, Paramatma, and Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagwan. All of these are one and the same truth, but Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan consider three different features. Whoever understands Brahman is called Brahmana, and when a Brahman engages in the Lord's devotional service, he is called Vaishnava. A Brahman can chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and on the platform of Namabhas, but not on the platform of pure vibration. When a Brahman engages in the Lord's service, fully understanding his eternal relationship, his devotional service is called Abhideya. When one attains that stage, one is called Bhagavat or a Vaishnava. Abhideya is the process. A Brahman may be a very learned scholar, but this does not mean that he is free from material contamination. A Brahman's contamination, however, is in the mode of goodness. In the material world, the three modes are goodness, passion, and ignorance, and all of these are simply different grades of contamination. Unless a Brahman transcends such contamination and approaches the platform of unalloyed devotional service, he cannot be accepted as a Vaishnava. An impersonalist sometimes imagines a form of the Lord, Sagun Upasana, but such an attempt is never successful in helping him attain complete realization. Unless one is fully qualified Brahman, he cannot advance in the spiritual science. A real Brahman is never envious of Vaishnavas. If he is considered an imperfect neophyte. Impersonalist Brahmins are always opposed to Vaishnava principles. They are envious of Vaishnavas because they do not know the real goal of life. We can actually see that in this age of Kali, many so-called Brahmins are envious of Vaishnavas. The Kali contaminated Brahmins consider the process of deity worship to be imaginary. Arche Vishnu Shila Dhir Gurushu Naramatir Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. Such a contaminated Brahman may superficially imagine a form of the Lord, but actually he considers the deity in the temple to be made of stone or wood. Similarly, such a contaminated Brahman considers the Guru to be an ordinary human being, and he objects when Vaishnavas are created by the Krishna consciousness movement. Similarly, a Vaishnav does not belong to a particular caste, rather his designation is determined by the rendering of the devotional service. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya chapter 15, verse 277. To rise to the level of Vaishnava, Brahman must be completely free of all envy towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. If one is envious, he is not a Vaishnava. He is not even a qualified Brahman. He is to be considered an imperfect neophyte. Therefore, to remain fixed on the platform of unalloyed devotional service and to avoid Mayavad contamination, one must remain free from the envious nature toward the Vaishnavas and transcendental to the three modes of material nature. Nevertheless, it is seen practically that the living entity in the material world is compelled to act within the three modes of material nature as he is conditioned by the laws of karma or cause and effect. These reactions force him into a variety of predicaments, births, deaths, diseases, etc. Sometimes he feels happy, sometimes sad. All this is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sometimes living entity is elevated to the heavenly planets to enjoy extended blissful material happiness with almost no obstacles, but then he is dragged into the hellish misery. Thus he fluctuates between happiness and distress, as in medieval times when the kings would punish criminals by having them dunked in the river. And then lifted for the air at the last moment. So the material energy forcibly dunks the conditioned soul into the waves of material sufferings, bringing him up momentarily for a breath of air, and then dunks him down again into the swirling currents of repeated birth and death. It is for this reason that the living entity faces serious dangers when in contact with the material world. The Mayavadis imagine that due to its temporary nature, the world is only illusory. Based on this conclusion, they assert that the living entity is actually God, and when this material illusion is dispelled, he will remember his identity as God. Their theory fails to explain, however, how illusion can overcome God Almighty. If their speculations were correct, it would mean that illusion is greater than the God. In effect, they say that the illusion is greater than God, and thus they have earned the name Mayavadi. Maya means illusion and Vadi means one who propagates the theory of. Actually, Mayavadis are an illusion because they have failed to understand their relationship as eternal servitors of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of Maya or illusory energy. Devi he Aisha Gunamai Mama Maya Durateya Mam Eva Ye Prapadyante Mayayam Etam Taranti Te. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. This is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 14. One must always remember that this material energy is the divine potency of Krishna, and Krishna personally reassures the conditioned soul that anyone who takes shelter at his lotus feet through devotional service is delivered with conviction in the words of Krishna and spiritual master. One should always engage in unalloyed With conviction in the words of Krishna and the spiritual master, one should engage in unalloyed devotional service in the society of Vaishnavas, avoiding all offensive and envious mentalities. Before the erring mind leads one astray, the mind should be corrected and firmly kept on the course of pure devotional service. Remembering the instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, always to be engaged in propagating the glories of Krishna's holy names for the upliftment of the fallen souls is the only shelter for the fallen soul aspiring perfection. In this present age, alternative passages are equally traps of Maya which will lead one to fall into the pit of Mayavadi conception. Or into entanglement in materialistic activities under the three material modes. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada also kindly gave us the world a spiritual society in which every thought, word and deed can be engaged in Yukti Vairagya or pure devotional services activities offered in our pure devotional service offered to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It was the humble desire of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, that by giving Krishna consciousness to the world through his preaching activities and books, people at large would become eternally happy in their spiritual practice and would thus solve all the problems of their lives. This mood of compassion in ignorance in pure devotional service inspires the pure devotees of the Lord to preach Krishna consciousness. A bona fide devotee of the Lord Krishna is always pained to see the fallen conditions of the whole world. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say, there is no scarcity of anything within the world. The only scarcity is of Krishna consciousness. That is the vision of all pure devotees. Because of the lack of Krishna consciousness to the human society, people are, because of lack of this Krishna consciousness in the human society, people are suffering terribly, merged in the notion of nations and sense gratification. A devotee onlooker is very much aggrieved to see such a situation in the world. This is from the purport of Adi Lila Chattara Chamitamit. A devotee onlooker is very much aggrieved to see such a situation in the world. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 13, verse 67. So we'll continue our reading next time. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.